Welcome back. President Trump continues to be dogged by questions surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein case. This week, I spoke to Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who, along with other Democrats, is now pushing for the release of those Epstein files.
Well, what a self-made disaster, right? And I'm not talking about the president himself. I'm talking about the whole administration that was involved on this. Remember, let's go backwards, though, first. So when Trump first ran, and was on stage with 30 other Republicans, he was asked about when he was running against Hillary, right? And he said, well, Bill has lots of problems coming, because he went to Epstein's Island. Just ask Prince Andrew. Trump brought it up, even back in that race. And from then on, he's been using it, a lot of projection on it. And his entire MAGA base, right, took this up as a call for arms, that this was a pedophile, and we needed, and there were rich people, high society people on that list, and that we needed to get it out. We needed to uncover it. The deep state was the one keeping it from the people. That was what they were telling people. Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, right? The FBI director, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, both really come into the administration on the back of the whole Epstein debacle. Pam Bondi, who worked on that in Florida as the attorney general, she becomes the attorney general. And one of the first things she does is she does these binders. Nothing's in them, of course. That's not already public record. And then she says, the list is on my desk. The list is on my desk. And then they say there's no list. There might also be no desk. This is so self-made. And now the most interesting piece comes. And the most interesting piece is President Trump, who went from, I'm going to release JFK, I'm going to release Martin Luther King, I'm going to release, the aliens, and I'm going to release Jeffrey Epstein, is pushing back on this harder than almost anything he's pushed back in the 6-7 months now that he's been president. And you have to ask yourself why. That, I think, is what is capturing the minds of Americans beyond folks that pay attention to politics. Why is he pushing back so hard, right? What is it that is either in these files that either implicate him or implicate others? Okay, what is it? Because this idea that there's no there there, if there's no there, then just release what we have and move on. Here's it, here's what we got, and move on. The pushback, the going after your own base, calling people weak, and that somehow this was something Democrats came up with. No, to Republicans' credit. They came up with this all on their own, and now the president's doing a 180. And the people he's been telling this to, right, for the last several years are like, no, we're not abandoning, who was a child predator pedophile. We want to know who went to the island.
The best analogy that I've heard others use is it's almost as if an arsonist who sets a fire then suddenly comes to realize you can't control where the fire burns once it starts burning out of control.
Well, now it's burning his house. That's the problem. He set it down the block, and now the fire is coming for his house.
And what I do think is significant with regard to his base is Donald Trump rose to power by basically saying, yes, I am wealthy. Yes, I am successful. I am part of that so-called elite, but I'm not really one of them. And if you let me get inside that circle, if you elect me, I will break it up from the inside and expose all the secrets. And so now that he's there, the expectation is that he'll expose all the secrets. And when you don't, that's what I think is evoking such strong reaction from the MAGA base that says, hey, is Donald Trump for real after all? Or is he just part of what you described as the deep state that we've always feared about?
Or it was all a lie. Right? Like all of these things were ginned up, right? Because they either are lying now or they were lying then, right? They either made it up, and as it turns out, there is no there there. In fact, the guy from Project Veritas, O'Keefe, you're watching him, Michael Flynn, Benny Johnson, right? These are major MAGA people that are on the other side of this than the president. But, they're basically saying, look, this is one of two things. There's either no there, which if that's the case, then just release what you have. But if it's not that, then it's so damaging, it could bring down the entire government, right?
All right. I want to move on to Alligator Alcatraz. You visited there the other weekend. We talked, I know you and I have talked sort of before and going into it. What did you see when you're during your tour? What's your takeaway from what's happening out there? And we're hearing more and more reports that it's a black hole. Lawyers can't get access to their attorneys, or lawyers can't get access to their clients. What's your understanding of the conditions there?
Yeah, so Jim, this thing should never have been built there, ever, at all, period. Okay, and it was built with the intent of wanting to put something in the middle of the Everglades, okay, for political purposes. Okay, so that's number one. I mean, literally, you get there, it's in a swamp. Okay, the mosquitoes are out of the Jurassic period. Okay, and the amount of money that was spent to put it there, okay, was much more than had they just expanded on a current facility. Remember, I used to do this job, right? Like during COVID, when we had to expand hospitals, I didn't go to the middle of nowhere and build a hospital. I went to a hospital and expanded in their parking lot. So you could have gone to Chrome, a detention center, and expanded, right? You could have put this closer to infrastructure. That would have brought down the cost. But they didn't do that because the intent was to put it there, okay? Now, as far as the facility is concerned, it looks like other detention facilities, other than the fact that it's all tents. It's all tents, these massive, huge tents that you use during base camps, huge tents, okay? And then you get into the tent. The dining facilities look fine, okay? The shower facilities look fine. And I say fine, I mean comparable to other detention facilities and jail facilities. What I did find disturbing is where they were holding people, which is the most important, okay? There were way too many people, in my opinion, in the tent. And then not were they just in tent, but they were in cages, right? They were literally, every wall plus the ceiling was just fencing, okay, with a couple of toilets. And so, look, I've been very clear on where I come on immigration when it comes to criminals, okay, how they need to be deported. They shouldn't be here, okay? But at the same time, there's a right way and a wrong way to do this, right, as we're deporting people, okay? And, I mean, it was a sight. It was an unfortunate sight to behold what's going on in that tent. They need to decompress it, in my opinion, get less people in there. That'll bring down the temperature. They have the space. They already built all this stuff. Put less people in these areas. That'll bring down the temperature, make things more humanitarian.
But isn't the cruelty the point?
It is. That's what I'm saying. It was built.
What they want? That they want that perception that it's cruel
100%.
and it's unusual.
Yep. It was all put. Listen, my guess is if they weren't going to put it in the Everglades, they probably wouldn't have built it at all. Right? Like this was the whole point. Alligator Alcatraz. By the way, I didn't see any alligators, but Alligator Alcatraz, right? I mean, that was the whole point. We got a name, we got an idea, put it there. Okay. At a tremendous cost to the taxpayers. I think it'll probably, they're saying $500 million. I think this thing, by the time they're done, will approach $1 billion, depending on how many people they bring there. And most of it, again, they're transferring from other facilities, right? So they're transferring from other facilities when they could have just expanded at those facilities instead. But yes, and you have to go there. I mean, you can be told about it, but until you actually get there and see where they put this thing 30 miles off the highway on the Tamiami Trail and literally in the middle of the Everglades, in the middle of right next to a Native American tribal land. This was the intent.
We'll be right back after the break.